I'm Miss Lee and I'm here to bring you Discovery Days at Home while the Longmont Museum is closed. So we'll be making crafts with things that you can probably find around your home. Um, it's springtime, so spring always makes me think of a few things that I really enjoy, like baseball, which I'm missing right now, and fishing. I like to fish, and the flowers are gonna come up, gentle breezes, you know, lovely sun, not too hot, not too cold. I love springtime. So I was thinking about fishing actually, because I think normally this is around the time fishing season starts. So I thought we could make a 3D fish together. And I've made one here just to kind of practice and see if I like it. Do you want to see? Here he is. He's got a little tail. Here, I'll hold him so you can see him a little better. See his little tail? He's got a big mouth. Like he's actually swimming along. I even colored both sides. And so I thought we could make something like this today. Now there's a lot of options with this because like I chose to use paper and attach it to this toilet paper tube with glue and then to color it with markers and crayons. But if you wanted to, you could just use colored paper and glue it on, or you could cut your piece of paper that will fit the tube, color the whole thing, and then glue it on. Or you could paint the tube if you wanted to, but that means you'd have to kind of let it dry before you could play with it. The reason I chose to do mine this way was because I really wanted to have the pattern of the fish on here. And I felt like it would be hard to do that if I was going to draw on a piece of paper and then imagine where it would go on the fish. So with that in mind, I decided to go ahead and get the paper on and then to color it. So there is a little bit of difficulty with that because it's not totally flat. And because it's not totally flat, it means it's not as easy to draw on. But if you flatten it a little bit, squish him, you can draw on him a little easier. And the only other problem that I noticed, which you may come across, and well, we can get there later, but when you are coloring on this surface, there's glue underneath the paper and it still may be a little damp. So if it's a little damp, then it may be hard to color on, but we can work on figuring that out together when we get there, and I'll give you some helpful hints for it. So ready? Oh, and I forgot to mention, if you want to, you could make a fishing pole. So you could attach your fish to the fishing pole with some tape and some ribbon or string, and then fish around wherever you want. So I did find a stick in my backyard, which I thought would be like a pretty good fishing pole. It's a little bent, but I like to imagine like he's like, I'm reeling him in or something. And then I don't have any white string in my house. I do have a fishing line, but like it's for the fishing rods, I guess. And so I have this Christmas ribbon, and I think it'll be really pretty and reflective, and some fish like that kind of thing. So I'll turn you down to the work surface so you can see what all materials we'll be working with today, and we can get started. Okay, here we go. Well, as you can probably see, I have got my fish. I've got some white paper. I've got a toilet paper tube. I've got tape or a stapler. That's up to you. That's more for like if you want to use the stick and the ribbon to attach to make it like you're fishing. But I know a lot of people like to use tape for stuff that glue can do too. Definitely need glue. I've got some crayons and I've got some markers. And lastly, I've got scissors and this pencil. So let's get started. One of the things that we're going to do first is we're going to cut our paper down to size. So remember, we've talked about in the past that if we just, cut something out of the middle of a piece of paper, it can be wasteful, and I don't really like to waste materials. So my solution is then to just cut things to the size that I know that I'll need. It's a strange coincidence that most paper and toilet paper tubes have a certain ratio that like match up. And when I do discovery days at the museum, what I typically do, if we're going to do a craft that involves wrapping a toilet paper tube in paper, I will take a full sheet of paper and cut it into fourths. And that size almost always fits almost every tube. It's the strangest thing, but it's true. And it's kind of like a standard piece of paper that I cut on a regular basis for the crafts we do there. So what that is because this construction paper is 9 inches this way and 12 inches this way. And so that means that each piece is 6 inches by 4.5 inches. And we're not going to measure it. That's just too much. Like, we could measure, but And I forgot to mention copier paper, like regular printer paper, is 8.5 by 11. So it's really close and it does fit. It's just like a little small. So, but I think that for some reason this toilet paper tube is smaller than the usual one. So I think it'll fit just fine. So what we're going to do instead of measuring is we're going to cut it we're going to fold it and then cut the lines that we folded. So I'm folding it in half like a book. Right? It's like a book. And then I'm going to fold it what we always called hot dog style, which means you're folding it kind of long ways. Right? So now you see how there's 4 equal sections? Well, they should be almost exactly perfect for our craft if you're just using regular printer paper. And so I'm going to go ahead and cut on the line. I'll talk a little bit more about scissor skills as we go a little further on. There's some parts of this that are going to be a little tricky with scissors because we'll be cutting a cardboard tube that has, so it's thicker, which makes it a little harder to cut. And then we'll also be cutting it while it's kind of damp probably. So that makes it a little challenging too, but I'll give you some helpful hints on that. So here I have my piece, and here, I'll set this here so you can see him. He needs a little stand to help him stand up. There you go, little fish. All right, so let's see if it's gonna fit. Mind if I put it here and then I roll it over? Yep, it fits perfectly. It's just the weirdest thing, but I love it. It means I'm not going to waste any paper. I can use those for other things later for some other craft. So let's put some glue on this. Now, about the glue we're going to use. We've used dots before, and today we're going to use some lines. And what that means is I'm going to squeeze it and move it at the same time, like I'm drawing with a pencil. And I'm doing that so that I can create, so I can control where everything goes. And I want to have some near the edge. Oh, helps if I open the glue. I want to have some near the edge. And then, see, I squeeze and I move my arm. And I'm keeping the nozzle, the orange part, touching the paper the whole time. See? And I just drag it along. Woo! That's a nice little wiggle. Does it need some like eyes? Ah! Now it looks like a little monster face. It's cute. Or a cake. Could be. Okay, that was just for fun. All right, but I've got it over almost all the whole paper here. And now I'm going to roll it up. So I set it on the paper. And then I left a little extra on both sides. And the reason I did that was to make the fish a little longer. See, he's got can you see in his mouth? He's got the little paper there is his mouth. And the same for the tail. It makes it just a little longer, so he looks a little less squished. So I roll it up. So now you see where there's a seam right there? It's not sticking very well. I don't have quite enough glue. So I'm just going to use just a tiny, like, little bit on the edge here. Now be prepared to get your fingers sticky with glue because we're going to smash it on there and we're going to hold the seam of the paper right there. We're going to hold it closed and count to at least 10. That way it's mostly stuck on there. So ready? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Pretty good. It's stuck on there. All right, now is the time to start cutting our fish. So like if you wanted to, you could decorate it now before you cut it. So how I cut mine is 2 different ways. I squished it 2 different directions. The first way we're going to squish it is with this seam on the underside. This seam facing down, press it down. See how I just squished it kind of flat? Now it doesn't have to be perfectly flat, just flat enough to help you cut it with your scissors. So now I'm going to pick the side I want to be the mouth and I'm choosing this side. So your options here are A, just cut some lines if you want to make the mouth, or B, you could ask your adult to draw you some little lines on there. Can you see? Kind of. So those lines are going to help guide you on where you're going to cut. Now the other thing is when we cut something that's hard to cut, we want to make sure that we put it way back in the mouth of the alligator of our scissors. We talked about before how the scissors remind me of an alligator. Got the eye up here and he's always swimming with his eye above the water, right? He doesn't swim upside down. And then he opens his mouth, chomp, 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 and the paper goes inside. So we really want to have something, things cut better in the back side of the scissors. So we really want to have the paper in the back side. So I open the scissors as wide as I can, and I put it way back in there. And then I squeeze, and I stop. Now, I just need to put my scissors deeper into the cut we've already done. All the way back. See how I put it all the way back? And squeeze again. And I'm going to do the same thing here. There we go. So now I've got what's going to be my mouth. Ma, ma, ma. Hello. Almost like a fish puppet, really, which I think is fun too. But so the thing about fish is, and you may know this already, fish, their tails are vertical compared to the rest of their body, whereas mammals like dolphins and whales, their tails are horizontal to the rest of their body, so their mouth wouldn't be oriented this way. So like this is your traditional fish, right? It's not a mammal, and so its tail has to go up and down, which means I've got to squish my paper the other way. So now I'm going to squish it the opposite way. Squish. All right, so it's going to get a little wrinkly, and that's okay. Inside here, I'm going to put a tiny bit of glue. Well, let's wait until the end. All right, now there's a couple of cuts I need to make. I need to make the cuts to make it look rounded here and here. So again, you might want to have your adult draw some lines for you. I'll show you my lines too, okay? And they're not perfect, and that's okay. Although the flatter that you squish this, the easier it will be to cut it. All right, here are my lines. You can see here's the mouth up in here. If I squish it this way, it looks more like the finished thing. And then these are the lines for the end of the tail. And this is to make it look like it's kind of dents in a little bit. So we're going to try and cut this. And we're going to use the technique putting it way back in the back of the, putting your paper way back in the back of the scissors and squeezing And once we get to the point, we're going to stop and we're going to come on the other side and cut there. It's so much easier to cut 2 lines close to each other and then just wiggle this last piece out like a loose tooth. All right. I'm going to do it again on this side. Yeah, just turning your hand so hard. It's so hard in that little spot there. So cutting towards this goal of the point in the center makes sense. I know it looks hard, but really these are just straight cuts, right? So it shouldn't be too hard as long as you've learned how to successfully hold your scissors. Then I think it should be okay. But if your hand does get tired, that's totally understandable. You know, as we grow up, our hands get stronger from usage, from using them, you know. So it makes sense that your adult would have stronger hands. And if you get halfway through and you're like, my hands are so tired, you may ask for help on that one. Now, you see I've cut it, and I want my mouth to close a little bit, so I squeeze my mouth closed here. Right? And I pinched it a little bit. Pinch, pinch, pinch. And this side is kind of naturally staying closed, which is nice, but I am going to go ahead and put a tiny bit of glue in here in between, and this is the tail, because I do want that to like actually stay really, really close because it makes it look more like a fish. All right, we've done the hard part, which is the construction, which means the building of the fish. So you know what time it is now? Time to decorate. Okay, so you of course can decorate it however you want. I chose to use this fish scale pattern, and I'll show you how to make it. It's very simple. It looks fancy, but simple to do. And I love that kind of thing. Something that's like looks really nice, but then is easy to do. All you have to do is be able to write the letter U, like for the word unicorn, and unity, and unicycle. I don't know. There's probably a whole bunch of other really good U words, but those are the first ones that came to my mind. So, all right. But yeah, the letter U is all you'll need for this, and some patience. And then I just drew lines here. So you can see what I did on mine was I used markers to draw some lines, and then I used my crayons to color in. And that way I have like really good patterns showing up, and then the crayons kind of color the rest. So what color should we do this fish? I've already got a blue and a green one. So I feel like I want to do like a gray and green one. Maybe gray and blue. I like, well, gray and blue and green. Too many colors. I don't know. I think it'll be pretty. Or you could do like a rainbow trout. There's all different kinds of colors of fish. Perch, you know, sunfish. Okay. First things first, I gotta draw that eye. So that eye is gonna tell me where everything else goes. And I'm gonna put the eye, so I've squeezed this together a little bit, but I'm gonna put the eye so while it's still 3D squished together like this, somewhere above the mouth. There's a big eyeball. It's cute, right? And I'm going to do it on both sides too, because remember, this is 3D. And what that means is it's 3-dimensional. So it's long, it's got length, width, and depth. So like from here to the back, how tall it is, how long it is. It's got all those things instead of just being flat like paper. All right, I've got some eyes, but you know, on mine, I added some extra color. So I'm going to do the same thing here. And I like the way that one looked, so I'm going to do it again. Now at this point, you can go ahead and squish your fish a little flatter, all the way flat to draw. I just kept it 3D so I could see where the eyes were going to go, so I'd know how it looked when I was finished. But from here on out, you can squish it a little bit. Do you remember me telling you about how the wrinkles are going to cause problems? Well, one's already caused a problem for me. that's okay. I don't really mind. Most of the time when we see fish anyway, they're under the water, so like we can't see all the details as they are. And that's okay too. And then all eyes, I think, have a little pupil in the center. Some of them are shaped differently than others, like cats, have those pupils that are vertical and they look like little footballs or something. And then goats have rectangular ones, and we have circular ones. Fish have circular ones too, I think. I'm pretty sure. Well, today they do. All right, so I've got my eyes now. I'm going to show you how to do this fish scale pattern. So let me move this a little closer to the screen. And we're going to do, I think, blue. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a curvy line to show you where his face and his body is separated. All right, on both sides. Now turn it towards yourself so you can more easily draw the letter U. Like this. And you draw the letter U and it attaches to this little line you've already drawn. Now I'm going to turn mine upside down so that you can see more easily, but you will continue to do yours so that you can write the letter U. Right? So we keep going. And I'm going to try and make them all about the same size. Okay. Now, the next part is different. We're not going to put it directly on top of this one. We're going to make it start in the middle of one and end at the middle of the next one. So like that. So the U starts here in the middle of this one and ends in the middle of this one. Right? Now you can also make this pattern with the letter V. V for victory, V for very, V for vanilla. Maybe it's snack time. Maybe that's what I was thinking about. But I like the rounded scales on this. I think it looks really nice. And you're going to continue to do that same thing on the next row. I left a little on the space here. Like you could go all the way to the edge if you wanted to, but up to you. All right, then you get to a point where it's like near the fins. And that's where I decided to do some lines. And these are like the little fin lines. Looks nice. All right, let's do the other side too. Oh, you see that? I'm going to have to add some more glue to that. I know this seems like a really hard craft at first, but hopefully you're kind of figuring it out as you go along pretty well. I feel like this one needs like one more. I really feel like this kind of craft lets you make so many decisions. Like you can decide if you wanted to paint your fish instead, or you wanted to color on your paper first, or, color like this. If you want to use coloring, like colored pencils, or if you wanted to I just thought I wanted to put this blue on the eye. Got distracted. Markers, crayons, any of that. Anything goes. It's your fish. Now he's got really big eyes. I wonder what kind of fish has really big eyes. I mean, there's some that specifically have like really big mouths. Like the big mouth bass is one of those. It's even in the name. All right. I think I'm gonna go. I'll glue it later. It just I keep seeing the little tab, and I'm like, I gotta fix it. But I'll just wait until I'm done. Now I want to color all this in. You know what? I think his face needs dots. I don't know why, but I just felt like it needed dots. think it'll be really cute. I like patterns like that. Patterns meaning things that repeat in a predictable way. Oh, that's cute. Dots, dots, dots. Also, it means I get to decorate longer, which is honestly like the best part of this craft is the decorating to me. So anything I can do to prolong the fun part. Okay. Dots everywhere. Time for the crayons. Now, the reason I'm using crayons is because if I use markers on top of my marker drawing, it'll just cover up what I've already done. And I really don't want that to happen. Let's see. What colors to use? I was about to say that I couldn't believe there was no gray in this crayon pack, but no, it's there. I think I'm going to use some green too. Yep. All right. So I'm going to give him, I think a silvery body, gray. Oh, so is yours still wet? Mine is, it depends on how much glue you used because mine isn't terribly wet still. So it's coloring pretty well. But if yours is still wet, the trick is to just draw lightly and slowly. If you draw too fast, it can rip into the page and ruin your picture. So you just got to go slow. Mine's kind of dry though, so I don't have to go that slow. And even though I didn't use a marker out here on the edges, I am coloring that part. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Yep. So sometimes I get into a spot where it's kind of hard to color, and I just make little marks like this over and over again instead of going back and forth because I think it's easier to do, like near the edges mostly. Okay. I think I want blue tail. Oh, that's a really pretty blue. What color is this? Blue green. Love it. And that's what Crayola calls it. I feel like it's kind of a turquoise, really. But I'm sure it could be either way. So this is an important part to take your time on because, you know, this is what's going to make your fish look really good, is the way you decorate it. So you want it to be really nice looking. So it's important to take your time. I think when we rush, we make mistakes. So that's nice. Now, I kind of want to make another one, but this time I think I'll do like, maybe the next one I do, I'll paint on it. That could be cool. Looks nice. You see how I tried to color all the white spaces in? It makes it look more finished. All right. His green and blue polka dotted face. I wish I used a different green on this. It's not as pretty as I thought it was going to be. It was like an olive green. That's okay. I was hoping it was like a light green, but I think I just picked up like the wrong marker. See, it's getting hard to hear near the end because it's kind of floppy paper, because it's that extra paper, you know? So I'm just going to go slow and go one direction for a little bit. You see how I do that with just one direction? I'll do the same thing over here too, for the same reason. Now this part's easier, so I can go back and forth again. This is the part we're going to glue back here in a minute. I'm still going to color it. All right, we're almost finished. And then I'll show you the last part, which is just attaching it to the fishing pole if you want to. Totally optional, of course. Maybe this fish is like in an aquarium or the ocean or a lake or a stream or a river, and it doesn't interact with people at all. So up to you on that. Okay. Now I want to squeeze his little face back together. So I'm holding the tail closed and I'm squeezing his, his little mouth together so he looks more 3D. There he goes. But I am going to add that glue at the end, like I said I would, because it's just this little seam right here. It's just not quite together. I want it to last. Okay. Last thing, if you wanted to make yours into something that has like a fishing rod, then you would get your string or ribbon, or if you have real fishing line, you can use that too. And then I'm going to tape it on the inside of the mouth with just some tape here. Well, this tape has some funny stuff on it. I think it's like yarn from something else. Okay. All right, I'm going to see how I stuck the tape on the ribbon, or it could be string or yarn. And now I'm going to stick it so the sticky side is touching the top of the mouth in there. Get my finger in there and rub it all over. Make sure it's stuck. Now he's on his little string. And then I'll tie it to the end of this stick, which will act as my fishing pole. When I was a kid, we did go fishing with just plain cane fishing poles. Like there's nowhere to like reel it in. And yeah, little difficult, but it was a lot of fun. Okay, all right, I've got it. I tied 2 knots. I'm going to trim this last little bit here because I don't really like that. All right, I'll bring the camera up so you can see everything. Welcome back, or well, welcome me back. So I've got my string and fish. That's kind of neat. And I like that with the tape, if you wanted to, you could just easily peel the tape off and then the fish is free. And if you want to go fishing again, you stick that tape right back in there and then you caught a fish. It's pretty ridiculous, huh? I like it though. I think it's fun. Well, I hope you enjoyed making a cute little 3-dimensional fish with me. And I hope that you will join us again when the Longmont Museum opens up. And until then, be well.